Okay, my outstanding friends, you know, if you've been with me for a while, I talk about Hesiod and Ovid and all of the earliest writers. And Hesiod basically was the earliest extreme documenter. And I mean, we're talking about details you can't even imagine. And he wrote what the daughters of Zeus, who was the god in charge at that time, they told him, you write what we tell you to write, and it's our history of our father's magnificence and the whole history of the lineage of the gods. And I'm going to cut right into Perseus, because it's extremely long and extremely detailed, and it's extremely confusing. And you will be confused, I'm sure, but it will sort itself out as we go along. Now, some of this stuff, I would like to have like a live video of discussion back and forth, because I'm trying to learn too. And I'm getting feedback from people that I didn't know about stuff. I get it all the time. And that's the only reason I keep babbling on, because more and more stuff keeps bubbling up. At a certain point, you think you've heard it all, but it just never ends. It just keeps going and going. So when I show you this is so stunning, and this is about Meddusa and Perseus. You stay tuned. This is unbelievable. Get ready. Okay, my friends, this story relates to Meddusa, and virtually everybody knows who Meddusa was the Gorgon with all of the snakes coming out of her head. This is not a good depiction. They show them much better. Now, this is according to Hesiod in his Theogony, which we're going to go be looking at in a minute. She was the only mortal of the three Gorgons, these crazy creatures. Now, let's dig into this, because this is about what Hesiod wrote about her, and he was the only one, really, that wrote this earliest text. This was after the Great Flood, and this was a story of the whole history of the gods by Hesiod, and we're going to be talking about Perseus and how he ended up cutting off Medusa's head. All right, this is what Hesiod wrote, and this is what they told him to write down, the daughters of Zeus. He's talking about Belpharon, who was the son of Glycus, son of Cepheus, having accidentally killed his brother. He ended up getting purified by this guy Proteus of his accidental killing. Now, this woman, Stelboa, fell in love with him and sent him a proposal to meet and, get married probably. He rejected it. He rejected it. And she told this guy that had healed him that the one he had healed, Belpharion, had sent her a vicious proposal, which was a lie. Proteus believed her and gave him a letter to take to Lobotis, in which it was written that he was to kill Belpharon, which was the guy he eventually healed, he originally healed, who was set up by this one that loved him, and he didn't love her back. So, having read the letter, Lobotis ordered him to kill the Chimera. All right, so he wanted Belpharon to kill the Chimera, believing that he would be destroyed by the beast. It was more than a match for many, let alone one. It had the forepart of a lion, the tail of a dragon. Its third head, the middle one, was that of a goat, through which it belched fire, and it devastated the country and harried the cattle. For it was a single creature with the power of three beasts. It is said, too, that this chimera was bred by Amazodorus, as Homer also affirms, and that it was begotten by Typhon on Echinodor, as Hesiod relates. So he's got it backed up by Homer and Hesiod, Now, so Bellerophon mounted his winged steed Pegasus, the offspring of Meddusa and Poseidon. Pegasus was the offspring of Meddusa and Poseidon. Soaring on high, he shot down the Chimera from the height. Battles in the heavens. After that contest, Laertes ordered him to fight the Somia, and when he had finished that task also, he commanded him to combat the Amazons. And when he had killed them also, he picked out and reputed bravest of the Lycians and bade them to lay an ambush and slay him. Because he was doing all the things he figured to get him killed, but he wasn't getting killed. So now he's saying, I want you Lycians to lay an ambush and kill him. So, but when Bellerophon had killed them also, he killed every one of them to a man. Laertes, in admiration of his prowess, bowed down to him, basically showed him the letter and begged him to stay with him. Moreover, he gave him his daughter, Philoene, and dying bequeathed him his kingdom. So the guy, he couldn't kill him. And finally, he gave him everything, and even including his daughter. Now listen to this. This blows my mind. So now, he's got his kingdom. So, Croesus inquired of the oracle how he should get male children. The gods said that his daughter would give birth to a son who would kill him. All right, these oracles, like the Oracle of Delphi and all that, I always thought it was funny. Well, they could make these things and say, yep, if your daughter's going to give birth to a son, it's going to kill you. Fearing that, Croesus built a brazen chamber, so a golden chamber, underground, and he was guarded by Danae, and he put his daughter in there. However, she was seduced, as some say, by Proteus, whence arose the quarrel between them. But some say that Zeus had intercourse with her in the shape of a stream of gold when poured through the roof into Dante's lap. When Croesus afterwards learned that she had got a child, Perseus, now this is where Perseus comes, he would not believe that she had been seduced by Zeus, and putting his daughter with the child in a chest, he cast them into the sea. The chest was washed ashore, and Zephyrus and Distis took up the boy and reared him. You know, I guess these are all gods. You can't really kill them. I guess he was a god. Now, Polystes, brother of Dictys, was then king of the Seriphus and fell in love with Danae, but could not get access to her because Perseus was grown to man's estate. So he called together his friends, including Perseus, under the pretext of collecting contributions towards a wedding for Hippolyta, daughter of Omius. Now Perseus, having declared he would not stick even at the Gorgon's head, in other words, he would do anything, and Polonius required the others to furnish horses, and not getting horses from Perseus, ordered him to bring the Gorgon's head. That's the snake-headed Gorgon. All right, Meddusa. All right, so he figured, I'll tell him to go get the snake-headed Gorgon, and nobody could do that, so he's going to be done with him, he'll be killed. So under the guidance of Hermes and Athena, he made his way to the daughters of Procus, which were Ino, Phrephido, Dino, and for Procus had them by Ceto. They were sisters of the Gorgons, and they were crazy-looking things. They were sisters of the Gorgons. There was 3 Gorgons. Now, they were old women from their birth. They were born old. The 3 had 1 eye and 1 tooth between the 3 of them. And these they passed back and forth each in turn. So Perseus got possession of the eye and the tooth, and when they asked for them back, he said he would give them up if they would show him the way to the nymphs. Now the nymphs had winged sandals and kibses, which they say was a wallet. But Pindar and Hesiod in the shield of Perses, all his back had on his head of the dreaded monster, and round him ran kibses. Whatever that means, I don't even have a clue. Now, the kibses is so called because dress and food are deposited on it, so it's like some kind of a plate, I guess. They had also the cap, which was the Hades, the helmet of Hades, I guess. When the Procyids had shown him the way, he gave them back the tooth and the eye, and coming to the nymphs got what he wanted. So he slung the wallet, the kibbesis, around him, fitted the sandals to his ankles, and put the cap on his head. Wearing it, he saw whom he pleased, but was not seen by them. So he was invisible. That's the helmet of Hades, I think. Well, maybe it's the helmet of Hermes, whatever it was. He made him invisible. So wearing it, he saw whoever he wanted to see, but they couldn't see him. Having received also from Hermes, all right, so it was Hermes, an adamantine sickle, he flew to the ocean and caught the Gorgons asleep. So he pops in on them, they're sleeping. They were Steno, and Meddusa. Now, Meddusa alone was mortal. She was the only one that was mortal. The other ones you couldn't kill. For that reason, Perses was sent to fetch her head. But the Gorgons had heads twined about with scales of dragons and great tusks like swines and brazen hands, golden wings by which they flew, and they turned to stone such as beheld them. Oh, okay, so I got it. They turned people to stone, if you saw them. And they could fly around, they could do all this stuff, and they turned to stone such as beheld them. So anybody saw them, turned to stone. Now, Perses stood over them as they slept, and while Athena guided his hand, and he looked with an averted gaze on a brazen shield, I'll speak about that in a minute, in which he beheld the image of the Gorgon, he beheaded her. He can't look at her. So he looked at her in a shield, in like a mirror. Because even just looking at her, even while she was sleeping, he would be turned to stone. So when her head was cut off, there sprang from the Gorgon the winged horse Pegasus and Sizor, the father of Geryon. These she had by Poseidon, so they were stuck in her or something. So anyway, he had beheaded her. No. So Perseus put the head of Meddusa in that kibbesis, which is this wallet, and went back again. But the Gorgons started up from their slumber and pursued Perseus, but they could not see him on account of the cap. So he was hidden. Now being come to Ethiopia, so he is in Ethiopia now, of which Cephalus was king, he found a king's daughter, Andromeda, set out to be the prey of a sea monster. So the king's daughter they were going to let a sea monster eat her. For Cassiopeia, the wife of Cephalus, vied with the Nereids in beauty and boasted to be better than them all. She says, I'm the most beautiful. I'm going to throw this one out and let some sea monster eat her. Hence, the Nereids were angry, and Poseidon, sharing their wrath, sent a flood and a monster to invade the land. But Ammon, having predicted deliverance from calamity if Cassiopeia's daughter Andromeda were exposed as a prey to the monster. If you do this, we'll let you go. Let's just, oh man, this is just crazy. Cephalus was compelled by the Ethiopians to do it, and he bound his daughter to a rock so that the sea monster could prey on her. Now when Perseus beheld her, he loved her and promised Cephalus that he would kill the monster if he would give him the rescued damsel for his wife. These terms having been sworn to, Perseus withstood and slew the monster and released Andromeda. However, Phineus, who was a brother of Cepheus, and to whom Andromeda had been first betrothed, he got mad, so he plotted against Perseus. But Perseus discovered the plot, and by showing the Gorgon, turned him and his fellow conspirators at once into stone. And having come to Sepphoris, he found that his mother and Dictys had taken refuge at the altars on account of the violence of Pelicides. So he entered the palace where Pelicides had gathered. Now listen to this. So his mother and Dictys had taken refuge at the altars because they were scared of all of these guys that had come to kill him. So Perseus entered the palace where Pelicides had gathered with his friends, and with averted face he showed the Gorgon's head, and all who beheld it turned to stone, each in the attitude which he happened to have been struck. So in other words, and he just stuck just like this. Having appointed Dictys king of Cyprus, he gave back the sandals and wallet and the cap to Hermes, but the Gorgon's head he gave to Athena, and she put it on a shield. Hermes restored the aforesaid things to the nymphs, and Athena inserted the Gorgon's head in the middle of her shield. But it is alleged by some Meddusa was beheaded for Athena's sake, and they say that the Gorgon was fain to match herself with the goddess even in beauty. So now, Perseus hastens back to Danae and Andromeda to Argos in order that he might behold the woman that he wanted, Chrysis. But he, learning of this and dreading the oracle, forsook Argos and departed to the Pelisian land. Now, the king of Larvus was holding athletic games. Now listen to this. He was foretold that he would be killed by the son of his daughter. And so she ended up getting pregnant, having Perseus. Perseus is destined to kill this guy. All right, so he was scared to death. So, learning of this, dreading the oracle, forsook Argos and departed to the Pelisian land. Now Telemedares king was holding an athletic game in honor of his dead father. Perseus came to compete. He was going to compete in the games. He engaged in the pentathlon by throwing the quoit. He struck Acreus, which was his father-in-law, on the foot and killed him instantly. On the foot, killed him instantly. Perceiving that the oracle was fulfilled, he buried Acreus outside the city. He was hidden out. He dressed himself as a pauper and hid away from everybody, so far out that nobody ever threw the discus that far, and that's when Perseus hit him. So anyway, he struck him on the foot and killed him instantly. Perceiving the oracle was fulfilled, Acreus was buried outside the city. Being ashamed to return to Argos to claim the inheritance of him who had died by his hand, he went to Meddusa, son of Proteus, at Tyrants, and effected an exchange with him, surrendering Argos into his hands. So Megathus reigned over Argos, and Perseus reigned over Tyrants, after fortifying also these things. Now it goes on and on. He had sons by Andromeda. Before he came to Greece, he had Perseus, whom he left behind with Cepheus. I mean, I can't tell you how crazy this is. Well, you just saw how crazy it is. But this is so lengthy and so detailed. These are all the stories. Egyptus had 50 sons, and Danis had 50 daughters. Egyptus. Egyptus in Arabia, reigning over the Egyptians. Ephesus married Memphis, daughter of the Nile, founded and named the city of Memphis after her, and begot a daughter, Libya. This is, I don't know what to say. I really have no idea. It starts off, well, listen, you want to see, oh, this is library 2. Having now gone through the family of Deucalion, who was Noah, we have next to speak with the Inachus, Ocean, and Thetis. That's a moon, daughter of the ocean. That's book 2. There's so much more to go through with this, but it is confusing, and a lot of people are going to be put off by it, but I think revelation already happened. And why I say that is these dragons were afraid that they would be overtaken by their children, so they ate the children. And Kronos would swallow the children. Now listen, he swallowed all of her children. All right, enraged at this, Rhea hid out, repaired to Crete. She hid out there. When she was big with Zeus, who was the baby that the dragon was going to come to eat. And she brought him forth in a cave of Dicter, which she gave him to the Curies, to the nymphs, and Ida, daughters of Melissus, to nurse. Now, the nymphs fed the child on milk of Amalethea, and the Curies in arms guarded the babe in the cave, clashing their spears on their shields in order that Kronos might not hear the child's voice, because if he did, he would eat him. Now, Rhea wrapped a stone in swaddling cloth and gave it to Kronos to swallow as if it were her newborn child, because that's what she would give him, the baby. He'd swallow him, and they were in his gut. And then what happened is Zeus got full grown, and he ended up getting the Ocean, the daughter of Ocean, Meddusa, to help him get drugged to Kronos, and he threw up all the Titans, and the whole crew of them came up. And they waged war against Kronos and the Titans. Zeus, I don't know, it gets confusing after that. We got to go through this whole thing. But I'm telling you, this is just stunning stuff. And it's very long, it's very confusing. It's book 3, book 2, book 1. You got Prometheus, Deucalion. Deucalion was Noah. They talk about Noah, they talk about the flood, they talk about the war and the giants, the Typhons. It's all here. The Olympians, the Olympian gods, the war between the Titans. There was giants in the earth in those days. The Bible is not completely off of this. It's just nobody would ever believe any of this. So they put all this stuff out of the Bible and thinking, these people, they're never going to believe it. And I think Christ came here to say, all this stuff was true, because you read the Nag Hammadi, and they don't hold back from this. They talk, I don't know about every little detail here, because I haven't read all the Nag Hammadi, and I haven't read all this either. It's just too much. It's just overwhelming. But I'm finding little nibbles here and nibbles there that all seem to fit together. From everybody's stories might be a little different, or might be the same here and there. But there's a lot to take off. What I found on the earth, these giants, these dragons, the things that are in heaven, our body parts, all of that stuff validates what I am reading in the ancient texts. Now, I know the 99, I'm sorry, I can't guarantee any percentage is correct, but I can guarantee some of it is. I can't say if it's a big percentage or a small percentage, but I'm going with right now, I see much more reality in these ancient texts than I do coming out of certainly Yale. There's a suppression of truth in certainly Yale. And that's my claim. based on my interaction with them and my CAT scans and my DNA tests and my specimens and the dismissal of that. And then agreeing that all this stuff does happen, but not like this. There's no giants. It was all slimy things. There was no bones. Well, there was bones. And there was geese and everything else. These are stones. This is the kind of fossilization they're talking about at Yale, which is what I sent them my stuff. And I had new species because this was stuff that happened before the Great Flood. They claim it happened when there was no bones.